Good afternoon once again. As the moderator said, my name is Omokorede Fasoro, and it's a privilege to be here once again. Yet again, I would like to congratulate Mrs. Pastor and Mrs. Atilola for the great work being done through the Covenant Information Empowerment Services. I thank God that the passion to empower young people is still very much alive in your hearts and in your lives. Thank you so much. So like the MC has also said, it's going to be a brief session. I'm actually on my way to the airport, about to leave for the airport, because we had some issues with time changes here and there, back and forth with Mrs. Atilola, but I'll try as much as possible to do my very best. So I will be speaking on the topic, effectively supporting immigrant youths without damage. You know, sometimes when I see topics that Mrs. Atilola sends, I'm like, wow, you know, she's a person with an English background. So she has a way with so many words to explain something. So I will just be sharing part of some of what I have seen, in particular using some personal experiences, because my first three children moved to the US after having a time of studying in Nigeria to continue their education in the US. One came straight to college in the US. And I'm just going to share some of what, you know, they experience and how we're able to help them to navigate their way. I'll be using the US more because that is where I'm familiar with. So to support basically means to bear all or part of the weight of something, or to hold or to keep upright, you know, to sustain maybe a structure, sustain a system, sustain a process, sustain a life. Okay? So, and this is a quote that says, a helping hand can be a ray of sunshine in a cloudy world. So in essence, we want to talk about what kind of help can we give immigrant youths that will help them to maximize their potentials and be the fullness of what they're supposed to be under God. I came across this definition that I find very interesting about who the immigrant youth is. Like I said, I'm using the US as a case study. And here it says at this website, I think it has to do with Agric or something. It says the immigrant youth is defined as those under age 8 and who are either foreign born or US born to immigrant parents. You will see that I underlined that part and I highlighted it. I must confess that I never really had this perspective of it, that as long as you're born to immigrant parents, even if you are born in the US, I don't know if it's the same in Canada, although you carry a US passport, you have a US birth certificate, they still consider you as an immigrant youth. I find that quite interesting. And it says in the US, back to the US as a case study, 1/4 of the nation's 75 million youth are actually immigrant youth. That's huge. That's about 1/4 of 75 should be about 18, if I'm not mistaken. And it says that by 2050, they are projected to make up 1/3 of more than 100 million youth. That's about 30 million. So the potential is huge. What if these immigrant youths are, you know, rightly empowered and positioned? There's a lot that they can do wherever it is that they are. So I wanted to also share 2 success stories. I'm sure we're probably familiar with this. I think the majority of the audience is in Canada, but I'm sure you know, sometimes listen to what happens in the US. There's a case of this young man called Yemi Mobolade, who recently, a couple of weeks or months ago, won his election as the mayor of Colorado Springs. an area that is highly Republican, and he won as an independent candidate. In essence, it did not decide to say I'm a Democrat or a Republican, the two major parties in the US. And yet he won. He came into the US as an immigrant, came with his parents as a young age, but positioned himself, keyed himself into what was happening. And today, he's actually the first Black mayor of Colorado Springs in a predominantly Republican and white environment. Another success story I want to share is this young boy called Tani Adewumi is a chess prodigy. He came with his parents, and when they first arrived in the US, they were actually homeless, living in shelters. But one way or the other, someone identified the passion, the gift that boy had, the special gift he had as a chess player. And of course, the young man began to do exploits, and then began to do great things. And today he's a champion. And from that young man, God has changed the story of that family. They are properly positioned and well integrated into the society. So these are two success stories. Of course, we have so many others. We have the Chiamada Adichies. We have so many doctors, professors doing great things. And I pray that one day, as many of our young ones identified with Covenant Information Empowerment Services will also be listed among the success stories in this environment. So, but then we do not have all success stories. This is another story I saw of this young man, an immigrant. I think he had some issues with the family, with his wife, the mother's wife. To cut a long story short, maybe they had a misunderstanding, so he left the home. This guy returned, I don't want to mention his name, with a gun, shot his wife, shot his mother-in-law, and shot himself. That will not be your portion. Permit me to say in Jesus' name. But then, just as we have the success stories, we have the stories that are not so palatable. Now, what are some of the challenges that immigrant youth face? Of course, there's a language barrier. There's the issue of your diction, your pronunciation, the way you speak, the way you call some words. Interestingly, I don't know if it's the same in Canada, but in America, they're so interesting. It's like they just deliberately want to rebel against the English. There's some words that are unnecessary for Americans to have changed. For instance, they call what we call toilets, that even the British call toilet, they will say it's a bathroom. What we call trousers, English people call each other, they will say it's pants. So there's a language barrier. Then there might be issues of lack of employment opportunities. There are cultural differences, culture shock. Some things that normally, for instance, look at the aspect, something as simple as eye contact. Back home, where we come from, it's said that when an elderly person is speaking, you don't look straight in the person's eye. You must show respect by looking down. But when you look down in certain environments, they tell you you're hiding something or you're being mischievous, but that it's better you look straight ahead. Then there's a prejudice. There's tendencies for discrimination that can affect their self-esteem. There's intimidation in some instances. In some really serious instances, there's hostility, harassment, and of course, racism. So these are some of the challenges being faced by immigrant youths. But the good thing is this, like I repeatedly used to tell my children, I said, the good thing about this environment where we find ourselves, if you prove your worth and you have substance and you know your stuff and you can deliver your stuff, it gets to a point where they forget the color of your skin. Because we're in an environment that respects hard work, that respects excellence, that respects diligence. Permit me to say, some of us, we know what happens back home. That the fact that you have all these things might not be that you get the very best of opportunities. Because, for instance, imagine a group of students applying for, young people out of school applying for a job. In certain areas where we come from, it will be the son of maybe a senator, a governor, the president, or whatever that gets the job even above the ones that are qualified. But in this kind of environment where things work, where there's a respect for what you have, for what you know, for what you can do, I tell you, we're in the right place. Like I said, I'll be sharing some of my own personal experiences. There's one of my daughters, my third girl, that came in here to college. And at a while, she started feeling so intimidated, straight from Nigeria. And then we just threw her practically in one university, predominantly white, few Black people. And then she used to feel so lost and a sense of low self-esteem. Of course, she didn't have the US accent, although she's US born, but she didn't have the accent. She didn't have it. And also they said, look, just focus on what you can do. Focus on you, yourself. Focus on developing yourself. Focus on being the best in what you can do. That's the strength you have. In your academics, focus on that, and the rest is history. So cut a long story short, to the glory of God, she graduated with a 4.0 GPA, 4.0 over 4.0 in aerospace engineering, and went on to MIT for her college, her master's program, also came out with a 4.0. Why am I sharing this story? She eventually said, Mommy, wow, the respect came. Her classmates, the way they started treating her, the way they would talk to her. When they have a problem, she's the one they come and meet to explain to them. And all that. I say, yes, I told you, when you focus on what you can do, your strengths, and you become the very best in what you are doing, people, it will command respect to you, So what are the likely results of some of the challenges I've mentioned? Of course, the issue of low self-esteem, mental health issues, depression can set in, anxiety, and sadly, some, even suicide in some instances. So what kind of support can we give? The right kind of information. We can empower them. We can give counseling. We can give presence, that is being there for them. Prayers, of course, as people of faith. And of course, I'm sure there are more, but let me just scale through. So the first thing we can do, emphasize the importance of education. As an immigrant, education opens doors for you, opens doors. And the beauty of this environment where we find us, I know America and Canada, very similar, is this. If you can continually develop yourself, there are some doors it will open for you. But if you decide to remain at one level, there are different levels for jobs. There's a level, entry level, you just need college, we call it high school in the US, that's all. There are some jobs you can get, but there's a cap. Then if you go on for your first degree, there's some doors that can open, but also there's a cap. But if you go on for your graduate degree or your master's, there are greater doors it can open. So in supporting immigrant students, we must emphasize the importance of education. Don't get carried away with the so and so $20 an hour. There's some people earning $150 an hour in the US, while we have some people earning $11 an hour. So importance of education, because there's a tendency to get carried away with all the things around, the McDonald's, all the things around, So what else? We need to let them know the importance of the family system and the support that family gives. This quote by Guy Lafleur says, when trouble comes, it is your family that will stick with you. So we need to let immigrant youth know that, look, no matter what, whatever this environment might be, don't forget family. Don't Okay, so the family system and support, we should let them know that when trouble comes in, family is there to support them. We should let them know, to encourage them to make the best use of opportunities around them. There are immense opportunities, great opportunities, especially for people of color. I don't know about Canada, but here in America, they have all sorts of projects, all sorts of projects. I'll share another story with us. There's one of my sons, my first son actually, doing a program in the top university in Baltimore. And he always laments and tells me, I say, Mommy, I can't understand it. That's well, in an environment which is one of the best universities for the medical sciences. And yet in this environment, I see people that look like me around this environment. They are going to the nightclub. They are around taking drugs. And yet there are great opportunities for people of color. Grants they can get, loans they can get, opportunities they can get to develop themselves and become people of worth in any society. So this is a part of what we can do. Let them, encourage them to make the best use of opportunities. Opportunities are usually disguised as hard work, as Landers says. So most people don't recognize it. So when they see it's hard work, some want to bypass. Let's let them know. What else? Help them. Tell them about the need to identify their strengths. The story of that young boy, that told me that I talked, somebody somewhere helped him to tap into his strength as a master, as a prodigy when it comes to chess. And of course, that opened great doors for him. And knowing a place like America, I'm sure that boy will be given lots of scholarships. Some universities will even be want him to come because they know that having a person like that can do great things. Of course, let them know the importance of positive relationships. Let them seek out mentors, positive peers, role models, God-fearing friends. I tell my children, friendship is not by force, it is by choice. It is not everybody that has to be your friend. You need to draw the line, define your relationships. There are some that might just be at the level of acquaintances. Some will be at the level of maybe co-workers. Some at the level of colleagues at school or colleagues at work. Some can now have level of friends, intimate or close friends. So we need to let them know it is not everybody. We've had cases of immigrants who, because they moved with the wrong kind of people, became friends with the wrong kind of people, they got themselves into trouble. So what else? We need to encourage them to get help when they need to. Something I've seen about immigrant youth, don't understand the importance of counseling or psychotherapy or emotional support. Whereas children, raised in this kind of terrain or environment, they understand how to, they need to go for a counselor, go to the school counselor. If you have some emotional issues, you are being stressed, but I notice that most of our youth that come, from Africa and all that, we don't see, because back home, it is well, everything is okay. But when we see that they have something, let's encourage them, make use of counseling services, psychotherapy, and of course the spiritual, and let's give them emotional support. And as I round up, of course, the place of faith is very important. Barbara Bush, former First Lady of the United States, said this: family and friends and faith are the most important things in your life, and you should be building friendships. Family, I've talked about that. Friends, I've talked about that. And of course, faith, the place of faith. Okay, if hard work takes you to one level, faith in God takes you to a higher level. So thank you very much for listening. I hope I did not overshoot my time. I tried as much as possible to keep it within 30 minutes. Thank you very much. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.